In the restless 3rd century of the Roman Empire, under the fiery skies of Cyrenaica, modern-day Libya, a man was born who would one day shake the foundations of Christendom. His name was Arius. Tall, ascetic, with a soft voice and a persuasive charm, Arius was not a figure of violence or upheaval, but his ideas would ignite a theological storm that raged for centuries. Raised in a world where Christianity was only beginning to breathe freely after the brutal Diocletianic persecution, Arius became a presbyter in Alexandria, the intellectual jewel of the ancient world. He was a man of sharp mind and profound conviction, shaped perhaps by the teachings of Lucian of Antioch, yet never merely a copy of his mentors. Arius was, above all, a thinker, original, disciplined, and daring. At the heart of his thought was a simple but revolutionary claim. Jesus Christ, the Son, was not co-eternal with God the Father. If the Father begat the Son, Arius reasoned, then there must have been a time when the Son was not. Christ was not God by nature, but by grace. He was created before time, the highest of all creations, but still created. It was a bold reimagining of the divine hierarchy, one that challenged the growing orthodoxy of the Church. But Alexandria was no place for quiet innovation. Its bishop, Alexander of Alexandria, a staunch defender of the emerging Trinitarian doctrine, heard Arius's teachings and recoiled. To Alexander, Arius's ideas were not just wrong, they were dangerous, a revival of heresies long thought dead. The dispute could not be contained within the walls of Alexandria. Like wildfire, it spread across Egypt and into the corridors of imperial power. Disturbances in the churches reached the ears of Constantine the Great, the emperor who had recently embraced Christianity as a pillar of Roman unity. Alarmed, Constantine called for a grand council, a gathering of the Christian world's greatest minds to settle the matter once and for all. Thus, in 325, under the imperial gaze of Constantine himself, the First Council of Nicaea convened. Among the rows of bishops in Nicaea, Arius stood firm, supported by influential allies such as Eusebius of Nicomedia and Eusebius of Caesarea. His opponents were led by Alexander, and a fiery young deacon by his side, Athanasius, who would become Arius's most relentless enemy. The debate raged for weeks. Scriptures were hurled like weapons, tempers flared. In one infamous moment, St. Nicholas of Myra, yes, that St. Nicholas, reportedly slapped Arius across the face for his audacity. Ultimately, the council condemned Arius. His teachings were declared heretical. His writings were ordered to be burned. A new creed was hammered out, the Nicene Creed, emphasizing that Christ was of the same substance, homoousios, as the Father, a direct rejection of Arius's subordinationism. Exiled and branded a heretic, Arius might have faded into obscurity, but history is rarely so simple. Constantine, pragmatic as ever, soon grew weary of the strife. Despite never renouncing the council's decisions, he gradually leaned toward reconciliation. Arius was allowed to return after submitting a softened confession of faith. Yet, as Arius stood on the brink of reinstatement, fate, or perhaps the prayers of his enemies, intervened. In 336, on the eve of his official readmission to the Church, Arius suddenly collapsed in the streets of Constantinople. His death was gruesome, described with almost gleeful horror by his opponents, a sudden, catastrophic failure of his bowels, seen by many as divine judgment. But Arius's death did not kill his ideas. Throughout the empire, especially among the Germanic tribes, the Goths, the Vandals, and others, Arianism took root. Even Constantine's own son, Constantius II, was an Arian sympathizer, and at times it seemed that Arius's vision of Christianity might prevail. It took decades of political and theological struggle, culminating in the reign of Theodosius I, to suppress Arianism within the Roman elite, and yet the echoes of Arius's teaching have never entirely faded. Even today, debates about the nature of Christ's divinity linger among certain Christian groups, some knowingly, others perhaps unwittingly, treading the paths Arius first walked. In the end, Arius was neither the villain painted by Athanasius, nor the revolutionary some would make him. He was a man caught at a fault line of history, a committed conservative, trying to preserve the absolute uniqueness of God the Father, but whose ideas shattered the fragile unity of early Christianity and reshaped it forever. The man from Cyrenaica, tall, gentle, and stubborn, dared to say, there was a time when the sun was not, and the world of faith would never be the same again.